Symptoms and faults. Some of the symptoms related to a faulty glow plug system may include the check engine light is on, extended crank time, hard start or no start when the engine is cold, the engine runs rough until the engine warms up a bit, and the vehicle usually starts good the rest of the day depending on how long it sits and cools down. Fault codes may include P0671 through P0676, which is a glow plug circuit failure, circuits 1 through 6, or P1649, glow plug module power supply lost. This section is intended for people who do not have a whole lot of experience with electrical diagnostics, but the diagnostics are not hard once it's broken down into sections. Here are some of the preliminary steps. Make sure the battery is fully charged and check all the fuses. The glow plug system uses a module to supply and regulate the power to the 6 glow plugs and separate wires for each glow plug from the module. The module has 2 plugs, a large single pin plug that will supply the current necessary to run the glow plugs and a 12 pin plug that has 6 outputs to the glow plugs, a power, a ground, and a data link to communicate with the ECM. The fault codes P0671 through P0676 only means that there is a fault with the circuit and not necessarily with the plug, and just throwing parts at it like a new plug may not solve the problem. This is where the pinpoint diagnostics come in to help find other potential problems that may not be as obvious. Here's a picture of the engine and the location of which glow plugs are associated with which faults, and the location of the module and ground wire. Here you can see the actual glow plug connectors circled in red on the driver's side of the engine. Here is the passenger side glow plug connector circled in red, and you can just see the module ground wire in this picture too. Here's a good picture of the glow plug control module ground wire location. This is the basic glow plug circuit, only the one glow plug, the front passenger side plug and wire is being shown to keep the picture simple, but the diagnostics would be carried out the same way for the other 5 plugs and wires. If modules have poor power and ground, they can sometimes throw random faults that don't make any sense or come and go intermittently. Using a multimeter set to ohms, check the ground circuit from pin 6 to a good ground on the engine block or the negative battery post connector. A reading of 0.0 ohms is ideal, but most wires will have a little bit of resistance in them, so anything less than 5 ohms is okay. If you have more than 5 ohms, check for an open wire. Personally, I like to see less than 2 ohms, but that's just me. The ground wire is connected to one of the fuel filter mounting bolts and has a possibility of getting left disconnected when the fuel filter is changed, so it wouldn't hurt to check that. Pin 5 is 12 volt switch power. For this test, the battery must be connected and the key on with the engine off. Check with the multimeter set to DC volts from pin 5 to a good ground. The multimeter should read battery voltage close to 12.4 volts. If you get below 10.5 volts, check the circuit for open or resistance. Now, since you're checking power, check the power on the large single pin plug for the module 2. It too should match battery voltage. Low or no power on the single pin plug will cause fault P01649. Now we check the glow plug circuit. This checks the plug, the wire, and the connections in between. With the meter on ohms, touch pins 1 and to ground. A good reading is 0.4 ohms. This is the resistance of the glow plug, and it will vary a bit depending on the temperature of the engine. Now if you get a reading that is high, say 0.599 mega ohms, or open, then the circuit has a problem. There are several possibilities that can cause this. The first and most likely is the glow plug itself being burned out. The second is a poor or disconnected glow plug connector. The third is the wire could have an open, or it could be corroded and have high resistance, or it could be shorted to ground. Fourth is a bad connection at the terminal in the module plug. And the fifth possible problem could be a faulty module. Now say you get a high resistance reading on the glow plug circuit, like in figure 5, or you're just following the fault code. Now you need to isolate the problem, or problems, as there could be more than one. Check the plug resistance. If you get about 0.4 ohms, then the plug is probably good, and the problem is somewhere else. But if you get a high resistance, change the plug, but finish the rest of the circuit checks. Now check the wire. The module connector and glow plug connector must be unplugged, and the meter set to ohms. A reading of less than 5 ohms is acceptable, but if you get anything above 5 ohms, check for a broken or green wire. Now check for short to ground. The module connector and plug connector must be unplugged for this, and the meter set to ohms. You'll want to see the reading greater than 1000 ohms, or out of limits. This means that the wire is not shorted to ground. If you get less than 1000 ohms, check for a short somewhere. Another possibility is to have one of the glow plug wires short to other wires. With the red lead of your multimeter on the glow plug connector, take the black lead and touch every pin in the connector. The only one you should get continuity on is, in this case, pin 1. Pins 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12 should be over 1000 ohms of resistance. If less than 1000 ohms, find the short. Disconnect the negative battery connector. Next step, take off the cover, 10mm bolts. Right here is the glow plug control module. So the driver's side foam is easy to take out. It just pops out. Lift the hoses up, the foam comes out. To get the foam out on the passenger side, you'll have to take off the intake pipe to the turbo. The clamps on this one are 7mm. So loose the clamps off. So I take this clamp off right here. And then the one back by the turbo. Loosen that one off. There's a crankcase ventilation tube that goes to the inlet of the turbo. That'll pop off. It just pulls out. There's a 10mm bolt right here that holds this side of the tube down. That one off. And then the tube will come off. Now you can get the foam out. Swing the hose out of the way. The foam will come out. So this is your glow plug control module. There's one big wire in, that's your power wire, and there's another plug that is your outlet wires to the glow plugs. The actual glow plug plugs, there's one there, one there, and then one back there for the driver's side. Passenger side, there's one right there underneath these wires, one right there, and then the last one's a hard one back there. So the first thing I do is remove the bracket that holds your glow plug control module on. So this bracket has four E10 inverted Torx head style bolts. The back one's a little tricky. You might need a universal joint to get in there. The same with the other back one. Oops. It's a little tight too. So, take them out. So, 2, 3. The bracket will come out of the way. You can slide the module out. So the one wire plug has one little tab you push on right here. And that plug will come out. The other plug will have two tabs. There's one on this side right here you have to push in, and one on this side. You gotta push them at the same time. The plug will come undone. So these are the glow plugs I've been getting. These are Bosch glow plugs. I got them off of rockauto.com. So a new glow plug, when you test it, set your multimeter to ohms. This one's automatic ranging. One wire on there, one on the ground. You should get close to half an ohm of resistance. Now to quickly check which glow plugs are bad, the fault code will tell you, but to double check, if you don't know where the glow plugs are, pin 1 is the passenger side front glow plug, 0.4 ohms, it's good. Pin 2 is the passenger side second glow plug, so it's good. Pin 3 is the passenger side third glow plug, it's good. You're getting 0.2, 0.3 ohms depending on how warm the engine is. Pin 4 is the driver's side front glow plug. That one's reading 0.6 mega ohms. Pin 7 is the driver's side number 2 glow plug. Reading 0.3. Pin 8 is the driver's side third glow plug. That's reading okay too. What the fuck? Based off of this, I would only change the driver's side front glow plug. So now, right there's your number 1 glow plug. Pair of needle nose pliers, wiggle it and it'll pop off. Swing the wire out of the way. Now, check the wire, because the glow plug may not always be the problem. So to check the wire, set your multimeter to ohms. Connect the one wire to pin 4, which was the front driver's side glow plug. Touch the other wire to ground. Your multimeter should stay at infinite or open, which means that wire is not shorted anywhere to the block. Now touch the wire inside that would connect to the glow plug. Your multimeter should go to 0 ohms, which means it has good connection. Now the third check. A lot of these are kind of redundant, but connect the one lead of your multimeter to the ground and then touch the tip of the terminal on the glow plug with your other probe. You should get the same reading you had before. When you test it through the whole harness. So you pretty much confirmed that the glow plug is the problem with this particular circuit. Take the glow plug out. These glow plugs are come out with an 8mm deep socket. Quarter-inch drive works. Gated. And then the glow plug comes out. They may not always come out this easy. Sometimes they're in there. So the top one is the old glow plug. It's a factory plug that comes with this engine. The bottom one is the new Bosch glow plug. There's not much difference. You can't tell on the outside that they're bad. That's what the tip looks like. They pretty much always look like that when they're used, if they're good or bad. Now before I put the new plug in, what I do is I use nickel anti-seize. Nickel anti-seize is a high temperature anti-seize that doesn't go away due to high temperatures. I apply it a little bit to the threads. You could ask one person, they'll say not to, the next person does. It's one of those things where you ask 27 people, you get 27 answers. I put it on, it works good for me. So just a little bit on the threads. Put the glow plug in the hole. It's kind of hard to see the hole, but it's down there. And thread it in. These are just glow plugs. They're like spark plugs. They don't have to be 1,000 foot-pounds. I'm just using a little 1/4-inch ratchet. Now hook the wire back up. Clicks down. Now what I like to do before I just slap it all together is double check my resistance on that same circuit again. So set your multimeter ohms. Connect the one lead to the ground of the block. Connect to pin 4 in this case. And we're at 4 ohms. So everything should be good. Now I'd put it back together and retest. If you have to get the glow plug, the front glow plug on the passenger side, you have to take out these 2 bolts. Then you can swing this out of the way to get to that glow plug. But we didn't have to do that one today, so it's a good day. So now Put your glow plug module back in. Don't drop it. You hear it click. Plug in the power wire. It should click. Weasel it back in its home. And it's home. Take the bracket. Long bolt goes in front. Now there's a long bolt, 2 medium bolts, and a short bolt. The short bolt goes in the very back hole right there. That would go into the engine. Uh-oh. Alright, so I found that bolt. It didn't make it to the ground when it fell, so it was a little tricky to get, but I got it. I put it in when I had 2 hands free. So that bolt's in. Long bolt, medium bolt, and then the other medium bolt. And that goes on the bottom of that bolt. Tighten them all down. Clip your hose back on. Then you can put your foams back on. So it takes a little wiggling to get it in there. Get the hose pressed in. And then it should sit right in there like that. Next step, intake pipe. I get this side in first, like so. Make sure this bolt don't fall out. And then slide that in its little hole. And then you get it to pop onto the turbo. Tighten the clamps. This is just plastic too, it doesn't have to be 1,000 foot-pounds. Put your cover back on. Now reconnect the battery connection. This connection was dirty, but I'll clean it later. Recheck for faults. So P0674 is now gone, but the other 2 faults are still active. So I'll have to double check my circuits, make sure I haven't missed anything. Fault code for glow plug circuits 2 and 3 still failed. So I double checked the circuit, everything checked out okay. So I pulled the glow plugs on 2 and 3 and put the new ones in, and the fault still remained active. So that means the only thing that's left is the glow plug control modules burnt out on circuits 2 and 3. So I ordered a new glow plug control module. I installed it and now it works great. All the glow plugs come on and go off and there's no active faults anymore. So the fault code description can be a little bit misleading. In the case for P0672, it says cylinder 2 glow plug circuit. It is the number 2 glow plug circuit, but it's located at cylinder 3. Here's a picture of how the cylinders are laid out.